I met an old man, and he told me a story that his father had told him. He was probably 70 or 80 years old. I didn't ask him, it just wasn't polite. But he told me a story about how we were talking about Niagara Falls and about how they had to divert Niagara Falls in order to, dam up Niagara Falls enough to be able to catch some of the water that falls and generate electricity. He was an engineer. He worked on building some of these really large generators and stuff that they had created. And he told me a story about the Great Depression that his father had told him, and that people had depended on this thing called the Lake Trout up there in the Great Lakes. It was a very abundant fish, and people would just line up. And the times when the Great Depression was happening, just before World War II, food was scarce. Money was non-existent. There wasn't any money. It was a gold-backed dollar, and people would depend on fishing, and they'd eat tons of fish. They would eat, fish 3 times a week probably. They'd bring 5-gallon buckets back home so they could feed their family for the week. And now if you go up there to the Great Lakes, there are no more lake trout. When we altered the course of Niagara Falls and made diversion dams, another fish had the ability finally to go upstream and get into the Great Lakes. And that fish actually preyed on the lake trout. The fish was called the lamprey, and the lamprey preyed on the lake trout. And then eventually now you just can't even catch lake trout anymore. They're trying to reintroduce them and everything, but I don't know why the story was told to me. It just so happened. The guy didn't know I was the Florida wildlife guy. He didn't know that I cared or ran the channel called The Great Outdoors. I just happened to hear this conversation in a regular flow of talking with an older person. And even they spoke from their experience in life about how we have altered things. And then I heard another guy speak, another elder person, a person who recently had just passed away. Let me let you hear him speak.
Most of my schooling was in the Great Depression, but that means I'm one of the very few people that's still alive who deeply remembers the Great Depression. And that's been very helpful to me. It was so extreme that people like you have just no idea what the hell it was like. It was really, there was just nobody had any money. The rich people didn't have any money. People would come and beg for a meal at the door, and we had a hobo jungle not very far from my grandfather's house. And I was safer in that hobo jungle in the depths of the 30s when people were starving practically than I am walking around my own neighborhood now in Los Angeles at night. The world has changed on that. You'd think the crime would be less, but crime was pretty low in those days. So at any rate, I had a very unusual bunch of experience to go through civilization in various phases, including the greatest recession.
So that's Charly Munger, and Charly Munger is actually the partner of another really famous multi-billionaire, Warren Buffett. They're like 2 of the richest people in the world. They are big-time part owners in Berkshire Hathaway. Well, Charly Munger at like 97 or 99 just passed away this last year, and it was sad. And some people are like, I didn't like Charly Munger, he didn't support crypto and all this. And it's like, dude, this man has reasons for what he did. He went through things you will never understand. Anyways, this is The Great Outdoors. We'll see you next time.